Hello children, and welcome to the first ever edition of Paganory. Today I'll be telling you the story of Thor, the red-headed thunder god, and his rather unusual wedding. One day when Thor woke up, something very, very bad had happened. His hammer, Mjolnir, that he used to protect the gods and all the people on the earth from giants and monsters, had gone missing. Thor was very worried, but he knew when bad things happened, it meant either Loki had done it, or Loki would fix it. Or sometimes both. So off he went to find Loki and tell him what had happened. "Oh dear," said Loki. "That is very bad news. I haven't taken it, but I will go and find out who has." So Loki went to see Freya and borrowed her magical eagle cape so that he could fly. He flew off from Asgard to search across the worlds for Thor's hammer until he came to the place where the giants live. There he met a giant called Thrym, who had a bag that looked like it might have something hammer-shaped in it. Loki asked him what was in the bag. "It's Thor's hammer," said Thrym, who seemed very pleased with himself, "and I will only give it back if Freya will become my wife." "Oh dear," said Loki, and off he went back to Asgard to give the gods and goddesses the bad news. None of the gods and goddesses were very happy, but Freya was very angry indeed. "I will not marry that giant," she shouted. Thor was angry too. "I will go there and beat them up and take my hammer back," he said. "You can't," Loki said calmly. "Without your hammer, you won't be able to beat them." The gods and goddesses all tried to think of a plan to get the hammer back without Freya having to marry the giant Thrym. Finally, Loki, who loved tricks, had an idea. "I've got it," he said. "Thrym has never actually seen Freya, and we all know that giants don't have very good eyesight. So, if Thor dresses up and pretends to be Freya, he will be able to get close enough to take the hammer back." "That sounds like a much better plan than me actually marrying him," said Freya, and all the gods and goddesses agreed. Well, almost all of them. "I'm not putting on a dress and pretending to be Freya," said a very grumpy Thor. "You'll all laugh at me." "It's the best plan we have," said Odin, who had been listening quietly. "So you are just going to have to do it if you want your hammer back." So Freya went to find her prettiest dress, and all the goddesses helped to braid Thor's hair, put makeup on his face and make him smell like sweet summer flowers. But even after all this, Thor looked like a big grumpy man with a big red beard that he would not shave off. So they put a veil over his face and hoped Thrym would not notice. Loki, who could use magic to change shape, turned himself into a pretty young maiden to be Thor's flower girl. Then Thor dressed as Freya, and Loki, the flower girl, went off to the land of the giants for a wedding. When they got there, Thrym had put out a huge wedding feast to celebrate. This cheered up Thor, who had been very grumpy and had not said a word to Loki the whole way there. Thor sat down and started eating. He ate 2 whole cows, 4 pigs, a sheep and 2 trays of vegetables, as well as all the little snacks and cakes that were meant for all of the guests. When he finished, he let out a very loud burp. "Gosh," said Thrym, "I never thought that beautiful Freya would be able to eat so much." Loki had to think very quickly to make sure Thrym did not work out that it was actually Thor in the dress and not Freya. The beautiful Freya was so excited when she found out he wanted to marry her, but she could not eat. She has not eaten a single thing since she found out, and that is why she is so hungry now, Loki told Thrym, who seemed happy enough with that answer. Next, the servants brought out drinks for all the guests. Thor, still dressed as Freya, grabbed the first jug which was meant for a whole table, and gulped down the whole thing in one go. He did this again and again until he had drunk 10 whole jugs. This time he let out an even louder burp. "Gosh," said Thrym, "I had no idea the beautiful Freya would be able to drink so much." Once again, Loki had to think quickly. The journey here from Asgard was very long, and the beautiful Freya refused to drink anything at all on the way because she was so excited to marry you, he said. "And that is why she's so thirsty now." Once again, Thrym seemed happy with his answer. "Let me look at the face of my beautiful bride," said Thrym, and before Loki the Flower Girl could stop him, he lifted up the veil that was covering Thor's face. He was expecting to see a beautiful face, but instead he saw a pair of eyes that were red and burning like fire. "Gosh," said Thrym, "I never expected the beautiful Freya to have such angry looking eyes." Once more Loki had the answer. "She is not angry," said Loki, "but since she found out that she was going to be marrying you, she's been so excited that she has not been able to sleep, and that is why her beautiful eyes are so red and sore." Once again Thrym seemed happy with the answer. "Enough," said Thrym, standing up so everyone could hear him. "It is time for the beautiful Freya and I to be married. Bring out Thor's hammer so that we can use it to bless our marriage." One of the other giants came out with a hammer and placed it in Thor's lap. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. As Thrym lifted the veil to kiss his bride, Thor grabbed the hammer and hit Thrym with it as hard as he could, sending him flying across the room. "Nobody steals my hammer," shouted Thor, who ran around the room hitting all of the giants with his hammer. And once he was sure that they would know never to try it again, he took off the dress. Loki turned back into his usual self, and the two of them went back to Asgard to tell the gods and goddesses what a good job they had done. Thor made them all promise to never mention again that he had worn a wedding dress and pretended to be Freya. But if you listen very carefully on a quiet night, you can still hear them giggling about how grumpy it had made him to this day.